Now it's my privilege to turn it over to a great patriot, Turning Point USA's White House correspondent who I get to see every day, Monica Paige.
The Trump administration continues the fight to protect women and girls, filing a massive lawsuit against Maine's education department for not complying with the federal law, banning males from participating in female sports. We have to get back to common sense values because they're not just conservative values, it's just common sense.
Yeah.
Girls can't be boys can't be girls, men can't get pregnant. Artificial intelligence is only going to get more and more complex. It's important that we clamp down on these issues now rather than later.
Okay, let's hear it for Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, the youngest female press secretary in history. How incredible. And speaking of incredible, it is such an incredible honor to be speaking with such a beautiful group of vibrant, smart, values-driven women just like yourselves. It is such an honor to be here, and I'm so thrilled to be standing before you guys this year. You guys are the heartbeat of a movement that celebrates faith, family, country, and well-being, and I'm so thrilled to have this opportunity. I'm Monica Paige. I'm your White House correspondent for Frontlines with Turning Point USA, and this is honestly a role that I never expected that I would ever have. It's one that has definitely shown me the power that we hold to shape the future. I stand here to prove that with courage, determination, a commitment to truth, and a strong faith in God, you can break barriers and you can literally do anything that you want in this world, and you can make your dreams come true in unimaginable ways. Now, my journey on this path, many people ask me, how did you get here? It was never easy, and it was one that was fraught with a number of obstacles. I've had ex-boyfriends tell me that I would never amount to anything. I've had doors slammed in my face despite trying to pry them open myself. And once getting through those doors, I've had former colleagues mock the way I do my job. That I'm not doing my job well enough, or there was something that I was doing wrong that they didn't approve of. But you cannot let anybody extinguish the fire that God placed in your heart. So with that being said, I first started to think about what I wanted to do with my life, like many of you. And just like many of you, I was a young woman with very big dreams. My mother used to tell me, if you want something badly enough, you will get it, and you can get it. But I also faced a number of doubts. I didn't necessarily wonder or worry if my voice mattered in a world that oftentimes seems very chaotic and loud, because I too am chaotic and loud, but I've always been confident and strong in my beliefs. I questioned whether I could stand tall in the face of criticism and continue to push forward despite being told no. And I was tested especially during my time in college. I went to a four-year school. I went to Marist College in New York State. It's now Marist University. I majored in broadcast journalism. Any journalism majors out there, raise your hands. Because it's, okay, a number of you, nice. It's not an easy industry, I'll tell you that. But I knew that I wanted to be a news anchor since I was very little. But I didn't know what kind of TV reporter I wanted to be. Did I want to do local news? Did I want to do entertainment news? Did I want to do politics? Never politics. I never thought I wanted to do politics. That was a beast in and of itself. But entertainment sounded like a lot of fun because it never really seemed like work to keep up with the Kardashians. But just like many things, I kept an open mind. Now, everyone used to say, college is the best 4 years of your life. You're going to enjoy every year of your life. They're the best 4 years. I didn't have the traditional college experience. They were not the best 4 years of my life. And they were challenging beyond academics. I struggled to make friends, and the ever-expanding world of social media at that time allowed for more anonymity, which in turn led me down a very dark path of being cyberbullied. People spread lies about me, unimaginable things were said about me, creating fake narratives, manipulating my peers' views of me and who I am. I lost friends. I was blacklisted on nearly every single sorority roster during bidding season. And I really kind of lost sight of who I was. And I truly, at the end of the day, I felt like giving up multiple times. But underneath it all, I realized there was a lesson that needed to be learned. There was a lesson under all this. There was a reason I was going through all of this. And that was because God needed me to be resilient. Little did I know how much I needed this quality of resilience to level up. I needed to learn something from these experiences. And whether that was going to be leveling up in my life, my career, whatever it was, I knew there needed to be a lesson to be learned, and that was resilience. So let's fast forward 5 years after graduation. It's 2023, and after holding a number of exciting jobs and weaving my way through the very intimidating world of media, I found myself at the White House under former President Joe Biden. And now that I'm here, I'm noticing that it's drawing some very serious parallels, except this time, the lies and the fake narratives, they aren't about me. They're about the world we live in. But this time around, I knew how to handle it. I had thicker skin after everything that I had been through previously, a stronger relationship and trust in God, thankfully, that if I could handle the blows dealt towards me, I could certainly handle it in bringing the American people the truth. So I'm here at the White House, and it's not just any White House. I was dealing with a White House that didn't value the truth. I was dealing with a Joe Biden White House. It was that White House that claimed Joe Biden visited the southern border to tackle the immigration crisis, but it was a staged photo op to take pictures and shake hands, claiming the border was secure despite the record numbers of illegal aliens crossing through our southern border and into our country. It was that White House that claimed the economy was the strongest it had ever been, while families were struggling with inflation. Multiple reports citing families had to live paycheck to paycheck just to afford the everyday necessities. Multiple times, the White House had said, prices are coming down, the price of eggs are coming down. Everyday people are at the grocery store and the White House is telling them not to believe their own eyes at what they'd see. And it was that White House that claimed, jobs were up, but they were artificially pumping the labor force with government workers and not workers in the private sector. And of course, as you all may know, it was that White House that insisted we had a president that was mentally fit for the job. He didn't need to take a cognitive test because he was just that cognitively and mentally fit to do the job. Now, I was never called on in the briefing room during the Biden administration. I wasn't allowed to question the narrative that was force-fed to us on a daily basis. And it's not like I didn't try. I wrote emails to the White House. I tried to get meetings with former Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, but I was constantly shut down. So, now let's fast forward to the presidential race. And when the reports were circulating that Joe Biden was going to drop out of the race after his disastrous debate performance against President Trump, which, by the way, the White House blamed on a very bad cold and jet lag, by the way, I sent yet another email. Now, I was fully expecting this email to be discarded along with the others, but still I persisted. I wrote an email. I inquired whether or not the reports were true. Was it true? Was Joe Biden going to drop out of the presidential race? And then I get a response, actually a response a few moments later. 3 words from a former staffer. He says, quote, "It's fan fiction." A resounding no. Joe Biden was not going to drop out of the race. What happens 2 days later? Joe Biden dropped out of the presidential race. So what I experienced on a personal level here is happening on a national scale every single day. The mainstream media, with its vast reach and influence, is spreading lies and creating these fake narratives that manipulate how the American people see the world around them. Just as those bullies twisted my story to control how others saw me, too many media outlets twist facts to shape public perception. Whether it's about politics or culture or the state of our nation, they frame events to fit agendas, to amplify division and erode our trust in one another and also in the truth itself, and that is very dangerous. So think about it. How often have you seen maybe a news story that felt one-sided or exaggerated or just plain wrong? And how many times have you felt maybe confused or angry and even divided because of what you've read or what you watched? Okay, that's not by accident. That is by design. And just like these narratives that are meant to polarize us, to make us doubt our shared reality, they also make us feel powerless as people. So just like in my college days, these people with the loudest voices, whether it's, the mean girls, the popular mean girls, or it's a media outlet with millions of viewers, these too can wield influence to control our story and control the story that we're living every single day. And that's not fair to us. We don't have to accept these narratives that handed to us. We can question them and challenge them, and we can seek the truth ourselves. We can turn the pain of division and mistrust into the power of both unity and clarity. And it starts by refusing to be passive consumers of information. So my fight to reclaim my truth in college, it wasn't easy by any means, but it made me that much stronger. It taught me that no lie, no matter how loud, can stand against someone who refuses to be silenced. Because believe it or not, the truth always comes out and it always wins. And we see this now, thankfully, we see this now with a brand new, fresh administration at the White House, the Trump White House. It's a White House that delivers on its campaign promises. It's a White House that addresses the real issues and actively works to fix them. It's a White House that isn't afraid of a challenge and fights back against the lies of the mainstream media. Which brings me to the rise of new media, which is now at the White House, and it's been incredible since its start. It's a space where authenticity, creativity, and grit can cut through the noise and now connect with millions in different ways that we've never thought could even be possible. And the best part is that our voices are heard now. It's not just the president's house, it's the people's house. And it's not just me being called on in the briefing room now, we are being called on in the briefing room as a whole. And it's because I am there on behalf of you, the American people, who deserve answers and deserve the truth. Now, there are days, of course, where the pressure feels immense and the criticism stings, and sometimes I wonder, whether I'm doing enough or if I'm doing a good job, but then I remember why I'm here. And I'm here because I believe in the power of our voices, and in the spirit and strength of our values, and the unstoppable spirit and strength of women like you. Because you are the next generation of leaders, and the world needs you now, and I'm emphasizing this, the world needs you now more than ever. You do not realize how much we need young voices and young women just like yourselves here in this space. And the best part about this, though, is that you don't have to be at the White House or in the White House to make a difference. Whether you're creating content on social media or speaking out in your community, whether that's your community of family, friends, school, whatever that looks like for you, you have the power to inspire change. But only if you are ready, because you gotta be ready. Because just like sunlight, the truth can be the best disinfectant. So I'm gonna leave this speech off with this. Do not be afraid to step into your power. Do not shy away from speaking the truth, even when it's hard and even when it hurts. You need to amplify your voice, whether it's a post or a video, whatever it looks like, and be the woman who stands firm in her values and leads with grace and strength, and be the woman who inspires others to do the same. Thank you. Open up to some questions. I believe that's right. I think we're going to open it up to some questions in case any of you guys have any questions regarding what the White House is like on a day-to-day basis and finally being called on behalf of Turning Point and Frontlines. So I'm happy to take any of your questions.
Wait, I shouldn't touch the Oh, okay. Hi.
Hi.
Over here, like to your right.
Yes. Oh, hi. Oh, my gosh.
So as someone who's really interested in journalism, and I've been to a few journalism camps where I find that my opinions are very much different from everybody else's. Mm-hmm. So when there's such a polarized environment, how can you kind of talk to other people who, for example, on the far left, and still have them support your media?
That is an incredible question, and that is something that I deal with on a daily basis, actually. And what it comes down to is having those conversations that are hard and making sure that you listen, because a lot about communication is not only about speaking, but it's also about listening. So when you hear the other side and you come through with facts, because it's so important to be fact-based, and fact-based is kind of such a difficult concept to understand considering the different kinds of media that we have nowadays that are so right-leaning or so left-leaning, but it's so important to look at the facts and look at the numbers in real time, the raw numbers, to emphasize what the point that you're trying to make. And I think that's a fabulous question, but make sure that you are listening to the other side and seeing how the other side is framing their story so you can say, okay, while that could be true, here's what's also happening that may not be getting enough attention. Great question.
Thank you. And then I just have one more quick question. So at my school newspaper, even though I'm the editor, we have to ask our teacher before we're allowed to publish things. And I actually wasn't allowed to publish a story about this year's presidential election because it was favoring our current president. What would your advice for something like that, if that were to happen again, be?
I would push it anyway on your own platform. Do not let anybody stop you.
No, I went straight to the headmaster and I explained the situation, but they still wouldn't let me publish it with the newspaper. So
what I would say to that is publish it to your own account, but also push it to other news outlets and say, hey, I have this great story that I wrote. Why don't you post it to your own account? That is a true example of how media can work to silence us. And even if it's just a straight up story saying President Trump won the election, that's just a fact. And if you're not pushing the facts, what's the point of even having that media outlet? But I think posting it on your own account is something that I would have definitely done. And maybe even starting your own website and your own blog where you can push your own stories and send them around. Post them. Even if you don't have any followers, people will see them in some way, shape, or form. Keep pushing them. Keep posting them. You should never stop posting the stories, especially the truth. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. So you just talked about earlier in your speech how in the previous administration there was a lot of miscommunication, a lot of things that said Joe Biden's going to continue in the race where he didn't. And I was wondering, in the pursuit of knowing what is true and what is not true, how do you suggest us taking that into our own hands as people who might not be in the White House or in those situations? What can we do to look at the information and to deduce what is right and what is not, or what is true and what's not?
That's a really good question. And to that, I would say, do your research. Make sure that you were looking at both sides of the aisle. When I do my research for my stories, I make sure that I'm looking at every single different outlet, whether that's CNN, Fox News, your right-leaning outlets, your left-leaning outlets, just to make sure that I'm getting both sides of the story right. And also, don't be afraid to reach out to whatever you're working on, whether that's, the border numbers, you reach out to DHS yourself, or that's, a fact-based, numbers-based outlet where you can get your information that won't be filtered by a narrative. And to that, that's what I would say, but that's a great question.
Hello. So I think as conservatives, as you were talking about, we really want to be fact-based, and that's an advantage that we have. And, in my experience, I have my own blog and I really try to focus on that. But in today's fast-paced media world where everything is X posts and short form videos, how do you balance wanting to give that context with trying to get your point across in a very fast and succinct way?
So I think that's a great question. And I would say with my reporting, it's so important to be succinct. And whether that's on X, I'll make a short explainer video where I break down, say the president signed something into effect. I will go into that bill and I'll pull some of the top key points and I'll make a post or a video, just an explainer video. And then I say, if you want more information, go to my blog or go to this website where I can just break down each and every point and what this means for the American people and what people are getting wrong that maybe they don't know about. It's important to highlight the important information that is in this bill. Whatever the left is saying, make sure that you say, well, critics are saying this, here's what's also fantastic about it, and here's why, in bullet point lists. I think using bullet point lists are a really easy and fast way to get a point across without having to, type a whole thing out and have people, drudge through it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Samantha. I wanted to ask, so I was talking to the Run Gen Z booth who helps people get elected, but something with that is even if you have the best intentions, you're now on a public platform, you're never gonna make people 100% happy. How do you deal with the negativity and hate even when you're trying to do good?
I really like this question because that's something that I have dealt with countless times in this space. And there was a situation that had happened that I reported on. It involved a flight on the way home from AmFest, AmericaFest, and it got a lot of hate. And I was reporting on something that was happening to me in real time. And I had so many people send me terrible death threat emails. You should, off yourself, like all these nasty, nasty things. You got to keep pushing, because when you strike a nerve with people who are going to be negative and nasty to you, that means you're doing the right thing. And there are people who will side with you. There are people who are on your side. Even though the criticism is loud, pay attention to those who are supporting you. And just, you can't let that stop you. You can't let the negativity deter you from speaking your truth, doing your own work and good work, and making a difference in your community. Thank you for the question. Thank you. I think that's it for the time. I think we're good. Okay, so if you have any further questions, you can find me. I'll be floating around the media booths and media row. So thank you guys so much for your time, and I appreciate you. Thank you. God bless.